What if the most memorable moments in the Marvel Cinematic Universe weren't actually planned? What if some of the most iconic lines, those that stuck in the minds of millions of fans, came out of nowhere unscripted, unrehearsed, straight from the quick wit of the actors themselves? In the world of blockbusters, where every second costs thousands of dollars, there's something even more valuable than a well-written script: spontaneity. And that's exactly where the magic happens. When the camera is rolling and someone decides to improvise, the result can be pure gold. Some scenes that seemed calculated to the millimeter were actually born from the intuition of the moment. Between bloopers that turned into hits and jokes that slipped out naturally, there are moments when the behind the scenes are as fascinating as the plot itself. Have you ever stopped to think how many of these surprises went unnoticed by you? It's time to dive deep into the details that escape the eye, but define what truly leaves a mark on the screen. Hello, restless minds. I'm Code, and this is Discover It, where curiosity has no limits. Subscribe and help the channel grow, because every time you like, comment, or share, you're helping us bring these discoveries to more people. Together, we can build a community where curiosity can change the world. During a tense high-tech scene on the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier, while several agents are tracking the Avengers' progress, Tony Stark shifts his focus to something seemingly irrelevant. He points to one of the monitors and quips with that signature sarcastic tone of his. That man is playing Galaga. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. The line pulls laughs in the middle of a scene that, up to that point, was focused on strategic information. The most curious part? It wasn't in the script. Robert Downey Jr., already known for his creative freedom on set, simply blurted it out on impulse. No one expected it. Not even the actor playing the agent caught in the act had time to react. But director Joss Whedon and his team didn't just find it funny. They decided to take the joke to another level. In post-production, they added a screen with retro graphics on the agent's computer, showing that he really was playing Galaga. It was a decision made after the scene had already been shot, all to validate Tony Stark's improvisation and keep the visual coherence of the gag. The result is one of those hidden gems that fans love to discover, a perfect combination of improv, creative editing, and subtle humor. How many other lines in movies have come from a simple, off-the-cuff remark? This scene shows that sometimes the best content comes when no one is trying to force a joke, it just happens. Amid the chaos on the planet Titan, during one of the most intense scenes in Avengers, Infinity War, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and the Avengers meet for the first time. Tension rises, misunderstandings pile up, and the verbal conflict quickly escalates into physical confrontation. Among insults and provocations, Tony Stark asks, "Where's Gamora?" Peter Quill replies, "Who is Gamora?" Then Drax enters and randomly says, "Why is Gamora?" A line that caught even the other actors off guard. This completely absurd question wasn't in the original script. Dave Bautista, who plays Drax, improvised the line in the heat of the moment. The idea was to reinforce the literal and clueless nature of the character, but the choice of words was so unexpected that the set paused for a few seconds. The Russo brothers, the directors, laughed along with the cast and decided to keep it exactly as it was said. The most impressive part? It became one of the film's most iconic lines, often quoted by fans in forums, memes, and social media. This kind of improvisation shows how deeply actors embody their characters to the point of thinking like them. Drax isn't just someone who takes everything literally. He also has an involuntary comedic timing that contrasts with the seriousness of the scene. Ever wonder how many writers would try to come up with a joke like that and never quite hit the mark? Sometimes, the best dialogue is born from the silence of the script. Killmonger's arrival at Wakanda's throne room is one of Black Panther's most striking moments. The tension in the royal chamber is palpable. The stairs are heavy, intentions laid bare, and the atmosphere screams of rupture. And then, amid all the formality and tradition, he casually greets the Queen Mother Ramonda, "Hey, Auntie," a short line, but one that broke protocol in the sharpest way possible. That line wasn't in the script. Michael B. Jordan decided to include it during filming as a way to show Killmonger's disregard for conventions and his total dominance of the environment. It was a direct way to mark territory, not just as the challenger to the throne, but as someone who genuinely saw himself as part of that lineage. The informality of the line, clashing with the seriousness of the scene, left the cast and crew speechless for a few seconds. The direction not only approved, but decided to keep the improvisation, recognizing the impact of the unexpected break. Later, the actor would repeat the line during an Oscar ceremony in support of actress Angela Bassett, who plays Ramonda. That simple phrase transcended fiction and gained a life of its own among fans. Ever thought how many scripts miss the chance to humanize a villain with such a simple line? Sometimes a character's power lies in how they choose to say what no one expected to hear. At the beginning of Avengers Endgame, when all seems lost, the few survivors of Thanos' devastation find themselves isolated in space. Tony Stark and Nebula are adrift, waiting for a miracle or the end. The silence, exhaustion, and emptiness create a melancholic atmosphere. Then, in the midst of it all, comes an unexpected scene, the two playing a game of paper football. A light, almost childish moment in stark contrast to the gravity of the situation. This moment wasn't in the production's plans. It was a spontaneous idea from actors Robert Downey Jr. and Karen Gillan during a break in filming. They started playing with paper scraps on set as a way to relieve tension, and the directors saw an opportunity to bring humanity to an extreme situation. The camera rolled, and the scene was incorporated exactly as it happened. No dialogue, no effects, just two characters dealing with the weight as any human would. That small, wordless interaction revealed much more about their relationship than any rehearsed dialogue could. Tony, Weekend, and Nebula, still learning what empathy is, share a moment of silent connection. Have you ever realized that in the midst of action-packed CGI scenes, it's the simple gestures that stand out the most? That paper football may have been just a detail, but it's the kind of detail you don't forget. During an inspection of the Milano ship in Guardians of the Galaxy, Gamora expresses her disgust at the state of the place. Peter Quill, not missing a beat and with his usual lack of filter, replies, "If I had a black light, this place would look like a Jackson Pollock painting." The comment is quick, sarcastic, and definitely not age-appropriate, but it fit the character's cheeky tone perfectly. That line was completely improvised by Chris Pratt without any heads-up to the production. The joke, which mixes modern art with a veiled sexual innuendo, went over the heads of most younger viewers, but got plenty of laughs from adults, becoming one of the film's boldest and most memorable references. Interestingly, choosing Pollock, a painter known for his chaotic, splattered works, was no accident. The parallel between the art and the ship's mess was clever and visually striking. Keeping the line in the final cut was a decision that split opinions among Marvel executives, but James Gunn, the film's director, defended its inclusion based on the authenticity of the moment. After all, Peter Quill is a character with no filter. It would be artificial if his lines always seemed restrained. Ever wonder how often a bold improv risks being cut for tone? In this case, it not only survived, it became a trademark of the character. In the scene where Norman Osborn reveals his true self as the Green Goblin in Spider-Man, No Way Home, the atmosphere shifts drastically. After a brief moment of vulnerability, Osborn betrays Peter Parker's trust and launches a brutal attack. But before the first blow, there's a detail that sent chills down many spines: a smile. One of those smiles that says everything without saying a word. And that moment wasn't in the script. Willem Dafoe, a veteran of intense roles, chose on his own to add that subtle, sinister smile. He held the expression for a second longer, waiting for the camera to capture the contrast between false fragility and the looming threat. The crew froze. Tom Holland, acting opposite him in the scene, was also caught off guard, and that genuine reaction was exactly what the directors wanted. The improvisation added an extra layer of discomfort, revealing Osborn's psychopathy without a single line of dialogue. This kind of gesture might seem small, but it's in these details that great villains are made. A simple off-script smile can have more impact than any threatening monologue. Have you noticed how subtle expressions say more about a character than 1,000 words? In Dafoe's case, it was the creation of a monster in a single glance. In Thor 2011, after being banished from Asgard and falling to Earth, the god of thunder tries to adapt to human life. In a simple diner, he tries coffee for the first time. His reaction is intense. Thor drinks the coffee, approves with enthusiasm, and without warning, slams the mug to the floor, while shouting, "This drink, I like it." Another. A completely out-of-place gesture, and one that earned unexpected laughs from the audience. The mug smashing wasn't scripted. Chris Hemsworth improvised the action during the scene, based on a more primitive and impulsive vision of the character. In his mind, this was the most natural way for Thor to ask for another round, just as he might in a hall back in Asgard. The crew was surprised by the choice, but the spontaneity of the moment, along with the reactions of the other characters, convinced the directors to keep it in the final cut. The mug breaking became one of the film's most quoted moments, even turning into a meme and an inside joke among fans. Have you ever thought about how a simple gesture can define an entire character's tone? That small explosion of enthusiasm made it clear that Thor, despite his power, was far from understanding the subtleties of life on Earth. And that's exactly what made the scene unforgettable. In Captain America, the first Avenger, after the super soldier serum procedure, Steve Rogers emerges from the chamber transformed. His once skinny body now displays defined muscles and a commanding posture. While everyone watches the change in awe, Peggy Carter slowly approaches. In a brief moment, she reaches out and touches Steve's chest, as if to test whether what she's seeing is real. A gesture as subtle as it is striking. That touch wasn't part of the original scene. Haley Atwell, who played Peggy, improvised the moment without warning. During filming, her astonishment was so genuine that she instinctively reached out and touched Chris Evans' chest, even surprising the actor himself. The production team considered cutting the scene, but upon reviewing the footage, they realized the gesture further humanized the character, showing a natural mix of admiration, surprise, and even slight embarrassment. This kind of improvisation is rare in films that require such visual and choreographic precision, but precisely because it was so organic, it brought an authenticity that's hard to replicate. Ever wonder how many emotions can be conveyed with a simple physical gesture? Peggy's touch was more than a reaction. It was a real connection between character and actor, forever captured in the MCU's history. During a scene in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Drax is asked by a guard about his identity. In his peculiar manner, he responds, What was your name again?" And then finishes with an imposing tone, "Drax the Destroyer." The line was funny on its own, but what really caught attention was what happened next. Mantis begins to laugh uncontrollably, something that clearly wasn't scripted. Actress Palm Clementif couldn't hold back her laughter at Drax's exaggerated delivery and awkward rhythm. Even knowing she wasn't supposed to break character, her laugh was so authentic and contagious that the directors decided to leave it exactly as it was. The moment completely deviated from the planned structure of the scene, but captured a naturalness so rare in highly choreographed films that it ended up working better than the original version. This unexpected break gave the audience a sincere glimpse into the characters' relationship and, in a way, between the actors themselves. Ever wonder how often spontaneity outshines rehearsal? In this case, Mantis' genuine laughter humanized the entire sequence, proving that not everything needs to go as scripted to be unforgettable. When Stephen Strange arrives at the Camartage Temple in Doctor Strange 2016, he's looking for more than healing, he's seeking truth. He meets Wong, the serious and silent librarian, guardian of the most powerful texts in the multiverse. During their conversation, Wong suggests that Strange is not yet ready for certain books. The unexpected response comes as a cheeky provocation. "Try me, Beyonce." The line surprises everyone, including Wong, and adds a touch of irreverence to a scene that could have been purely expository. The line was entirely improvised by Benedict Cumberbatch. There was no mention of the singer in the script, but the timing was so perfect and the reference so unexpected that director Scott Derrickson chose to keep it in the final cut. The impact was so positive that the writers even created a small continuation of the joke. Later in the film, Wong is seen secretly listening to single ladies, subtly and comically connecting the two moments. It's rare to see such current pop references in a universe that mixes ancient magic and alternate realities. Ever wonder how something so modern can coexist with millennia-old spells? In this case, it worked because it revealed a key detail about Strange. He's not just arrogant, he's modern, sarcastic, and loves to provoke. And all of that in a single word, Beyonce. During a tense investigation scene in Avengers, Age of Ultron, Tony Stark explores an abandoned facility. The scene is quiet, with a growing sense of suspense. The script called for him to find a secret passage in a serious and straightforward way. But upon successfully activating the hidden mechanism, Robert Downey Jr. added something totally unexpected, a simple, childlike "yay," said with the enthusiasm of a kid who just found buried treasure. The original intent of the scene was to maintain a dark tone, but Downey, always granted creative freedom on set, felt a brief tonal break would work better. And it did. The spontaneity of the "yay" momentarily broke the tension, added levity to the sequence, and reinforced Tony Stark's irreverent personality, a billionaire genius who never loses his sarcastic touch, even in the most unexpected situations. This kind of detail shows how a character can be built not only through the script, but through precise acting choices. Ever wonder how many of these small insertions go unnoticed by casual viewers, yet are essential in making a character memorable? Stark's "yay" is one of those moments that, while small, carries the full essence of who he is, unpredictable, charismatic, and always one step ahead of the script itself. When Peter Quill showcases the orb in Guardians of the Galaxy, things don't go exactly as planned. The object central to the plot contains one of the most powerful artifacts in the universe, an Infinity Stone. At the moment when Quill needs to demonstrate confidence and control, something totally unexpected happens. He lets the orb slip from his hands and drops it to the ground. The fall causes an awkward pause, followed by slight embarrassment, but the scene quickly resumes as if nothing happened. The most curious part? The drop was completely accidental. While handling the object, Chris Pratt simply let it slip. The original intent was for the sequence to be serious, almost ceremonial, but the slip was so genuine and at the same time, so true to Quill's clumsy and impulsive behavior that director James Gunn decided to keep it as is. The moment became a kind of signature for the character. He's brave, but also a bit of a goofball. This type of improvisation requires no lines, yet says so much. Ever considered how a mistake can reveal more about a character than entire pages of dialogue? By stumbling over his own grandiosity, Quill won the audience over precisely because he wasn't perfect, and that made him all the more real. Captured and imprisoned in the icebox, Deadpool faces powerlessness with typical sarcasm in Deadpool 2. Wearing a collar that neutralizes his healing powers, Wade Wilson doesn't show despair or vulnerability. Instead, he reacts the only way he knows how, with humor. In an unexpected moment, he says, "With this collar, my superpower is just aggressive cancer. Give me a bow and arrow and I'm basically Hawkeye." That line wasn't in the script. Ryan Reynolds, known for improvising freely on set, threw out the joke in the heat of the moment, directly poking fun at one of the MCU's most underestimated Avengers. The comment, witty and provocative, made the crew burst into laughter, but also raised an interesting point. How do heroes like Hawkeye fit into a universe full of gods, mutants, and superpowers? The jab made the final cut and became one of the highlights of the franchise's signature sharp humor. Deadpool has the creative license to say what no other character could. Ever thought about how often films poke fun at superhero cliches, yet rarely dare to directly call out a fellow character? This one-liner didn't just subtly break the fourth wall. It reinforced Deadpool's cheeky, unpredictable identity. He spares no one, not even the Avengers. During the events of Avengers Infinity War, Thor returns after forging his new weapon and reuniting with the remaining heroes. In one of the film's most subtle and lighthearted exchanges, he meets Steve Rogers again, who now sports a beard and a rougher look. Thor, in a mildly teasing tone, comments, "I see you've copied my beard." The line, though simple, drew laughs in theaters and created an unexpected connection between the two characters. The line was completely improvised by Chris Hemsworth. During rehearsals, he noticed that Steve's new look resembled his own and took the opportunity to make a jab. Chris Evans' response was restrained, but the subtle smile on his face revealed that the comment caught everyone by surprise. The production team liked the naturalness of the moment and decided to keep it in the final cut, precisely because it felt like a real conversation between longtime comrades. Sometimes it's the simplest details that humanize superheroes. Have you thought about how a joke about appearance, something so mundane, can turn an epic reunion into something more relatable? That unexpected line helped reinforce the bond between the characters, bringing levity to a film that, up to that point, had been immersed in growing tension. In Black Panther, during a verbal confrontation scene in Wakanda's Royal Hall, Agent Everett Ross tries to intervene in a tense conversation between tribal leaders. But before he can finish his sentence, he's abruptly cut off by a powerful gorilla grunt from Baku, leader of the mountain tribe. The sound echoes with authority and immediately causes the agent to step back in silence. The scene is brief but memorable, and best of all, it was completely improvised. Winston Duke, who plays M'Baku, came up with the grunt on the spot during filming. He understood that the character, coming from a more isolated and tribal culture, could express strength and dominance through gestures and sounds, not just words. Director Ryan Coogler loved the choice so much that he decided to incorporate it as an official part of M'Baku's body language. The grunt later appeared in other scenes and became a signature trait of the character. This improvisation shows that communication goes beyond words. Have you considered how many leaders command respect with posture and presence alone? M'Baku did it with a single sound, without needing arguments or threats. An example of how, within such a rich universe, it's the actors' instincts and creativity that breathe real life into their characters. Improvising in front of the camera might seem like a risk, but as we've seen, it's precisely these deviations from the script that create the most authentic and memorable moments. Actors who deeply understand their characters can, with a gesture, a line, or even a mistake, turn ordinary scenes into cinematic gems. And in the Marvel Universe, where everything seems meticulously planned, it's fascinating to discover that some of the moments that most moved audiences were completely unplanned. These improvisations show that behind every great production, there's also room for spontaneity, and that the magic of cinema happens when creativity and opportunity collide. If you enjoyed this journey of discoveries, don't forget to hit like, share with your friends, and comment below on what caught your attention the most. Maybe others will relate, and we can start a great conversation. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more content where curiosity knows no limits.